This is Darkest Dungeon, a computer game where you play as an unseen noble, presumably English, summoned to return to your now fallen, opulent and imperial estate. You're returning home so you can clean up the mess left by your housekeeper. In your absence, the help has accidentally opened a portal to some incomprehensible hell while digging around in your basement. This guy right here, this ungrateful asshole, grew bored with all the comforts and luxury you left him. He trashed your home, he did all of your drugs, he did all of your women, and then he just left. Now you have to come all the way back by horse and carriage to fix things. That portal he opened has presumably spilled its horrors out into the countryside of your otherwise adorable little town.
Welcome home, such as it is.
By commanding small scouting teams of adventurers, you relay the demonic happenings of the land in order to salvage what remains of your now scarred inheritance. What exactly happened to the estate and your country is both detailed in excess by the narrator, and yet somehow remains completely incomprehensible, mostly because you weren't paying attention. What caused him to even think that the devil lived downstairs in the first place? Why is the portal here instead of anywhere else? None of it matters now. That bile has seeped right through the floorboards, and it's not going to sponge out. Perhaps he'll explain later, or perhaps it's as simple as that, and there will be no purpose or reason beyond his morbid curiosity and misguided motivations. But no one knows yet, and until then, it's up to you, the player, to middle manage and project lead girl boss your way back into your home in order to purge the evil birthed from English modernity. And hopefully there's a man around the house to patch that roof. The narrator tasks you and your reliable influx of emigrating underlings to complete this long list of bounties throughout the countryside. Places like the beach, the woods, the cove, but most importantly, the Darkest Dungeon, your old basement. The game plays out in weekly increments. As the recruitable adventurers flow into town each week, you'll swap between sending parties out into the countryside to complete this list of chores, or assigning weary party members to rest at the amenities found throughout town. While you're away with the scouting teams, resting adventurers may spend their week, among other things, practicing at church, recovering in the hospital, training at the guild, drinking at the bar, or the brothel. So, how do you play, exactly? In most ways, Darkest Dungeon is a familiar, turn-based combat and menuing computer game, but it's unique in that the skills acquired here to better play are almost always the same skills necessary to better navigate one's own real life. For example, the first step to successfully play Darkest Dungeon is to have fun. I'm just kidding. Number one is don't be a pussy. Just like real life, to win, you gotta have some gumption. So what you wanna do is, when starting Darkest Dungeon, select the hardest difficulty mode called Bloodmoon. Bloodmoon mode enforces a diegetic time limit and a character death limit. And, just like real life, character deaths are permanent. So if you reach either of said limits, which you won't with the help of this strategy guide, then presumably the town falls into ruin, everyone dies, and it's game over for you. But you wouldn't know because pro gamers never see a game over screen, and you're watching this guide, which means you're a pro gamer. It means you're a genius, a mentally dexterous tactician who whittles even the greatest challenges into lackadaisy. Step number 2, be born wealthy and a little silly in the head. You will want a familiarity with fallen opulence and neurodivergence. This will afford you a graceful fluidity in navigating the psychological pressures of Bloodmoon mode. Like the unseen player character, you want to come from a now broken home that had new money but lost it all due to overindulgence. To play this game on its hardest difficulty, you will want a life that has been Stygian for years. And while your experience will carry you far, you'll want to have a few resources ready for appropriate consultation. After the narrator's spiel, your carriage home falls to pieces. The unseen you, the player character, is accompanied by one holy, noble armored knight and another less formally dressed highwayman. Like you, the unseen player character is too smart and too pretty to take up arms in battle, so you have these two gentlemen to face such horrors on your behalf. The first is Reynold, a crusader. Crusaders act within the paladin trope. They are well-armored, decently hitting, and sometimes supportive party leaders. They fight, they judge, they heal. However, though these archetypes exist in Darkest Dungeon, each party member is a true individual with unique names and personalities. Reynold, for example, seems a little insecure in his faith. Also, he's a thief. Okay. Dismas is a quick about his wits highwayman, and the immediate subject of Reynold's abuse.
Frustration and fury.
Dismas has a gun, and he has a knife. And sometimes the gun does a lot of damage. Here, the game demonstrates its main mechanics, commanding units in order of attack speed. But unlike most turn-based games in this style, your party is a little less obedient than that which you may be accustomed. Darkest Dungeon is a game that dares to ask, what if the characters in Final Fantasy were as mentally ill as the people who play those games? And depending on their individual personalities, each command you give to a party member is subject to the whims of that unit, which is often subject to the unit's level of stress. This is measured with a meter below their health bar. Additionally, unit actions are subject to the afflictions of their personality. They have true character. New afflictions develop over time, with the accumulation of said stressors. This is all to say that your party members pretty much do whatever they want. Often, very often, party members won't do what they're told. They'll refuse help. They'll attack whatever they want, hostile or friendly. They'll interact with the setting in unpredictable and often detrimental ways. Depending on certain statuses or game states, party members may take control away from you by deciding what ability they'd prefer, what target they prefer, or how resources are distributed. They'll refuse buffs, change the party order, which really screws you over, as you'll see later. And they can drastically alter the stress meters of others. Basically, anything available to you as the player seems similarly available to use by party members as they see fit. It is so frustrating. There's something about a computer game that disrespects that conditioning built over decades of playing other games like Final Fantasy. It's outrageous, and it's uncalled for. There exists a type of social contract, a respectful input-output agreement to these kinds of games. You buy the game gives you obeying party members to command. The party members do what they're told. Darkest Dungeon takes that long upheld contract and tells you to go fuck yourself. And it never gets any easier. You'll be dealing with this for hours, and still, when a party member refuses otherwise life-saving bandages, you'll grind your fucking teeth when these idiots insist they know better than you. So your starting crusader, Reynold. His trust in the Lord seems performative based on first impressions. He kind of loses it after seeing this ghost and takes out his frustrations on poor Dismas. His fear of death and the unknown takes shape through harsh words directed at his companion. Reynold's stress leads him to abuse Dismas, which then stresses Dismas out. It's a vicious cycle, and you hate to see it. Well, yeah, but we have a job to do, Reynold. This house is in ruins. This makes you wonder when the stress of your life expressed itself in a similar way. A way that might have caused others to feel worse in their lives. Your therapist will call to cancel next week's appointment. Reynold becomes even more of a hater, and you're introduced to the second main aspect of this game, which is reading through menus.
This squalid hamlet, these corrupted lands, they are yours now.
The hamlet is not just your adorable small town, it's the resting period and roster management portion of the game. After each venture into the dangerous countryside, you'll return to an activity log that details the going-ons of the village while you and the adventuring team were away. This screen also shows your goals, and there's a lot. Oh my god, there's a lot. But not to worry, 100 weeks is plenty of time to tackle that laundry list. The graveyard shows that you have 16 deaths until game over. This seems like a pretty low threshold considering the circumstances. I mean, just look at the house. You gotta crack a few eggs. But one might suppose that it is a small town, so 16 dead neighbors would be a pretty big deal. If 16 people died in your neighborhood, you might be a little freaked out too. The hamlet contains a few structures, each with their own purpose to utilize during each week's leave. The stagecoach here will bring you weekly new recruits. You'll want to check this every week just in case. The first week's recruits to join are a plague doctor named Montgomery and a vestal named Linessi. Montgomery makes for an interesting doctor because he seems more inclined to poison than medicate.
What better laboratory than the blood-soaked battlefield?
Yeah, okay, if you say so. And Linessi makes for an interesting vestal, considering she's an alcoholic and an atheist.
A sister of battle, pious and unrelenting.
Yeah, if you say so. But it's not polite to pry, and it's not pretty to judge. We all have our crosses to bear. The woman here sells trinkets, cute. This book in the corner of your screen is a whole fucking dictionary, so take an afternoon to thumb through that, I guess. And then you're off on your second week's adventure.
Your work begins.
But before you go, pay attention to the order of your party members, because most abilities can only be used when party members are in certain battle positions. Montgomery, for example, cannot concentrate on making his silly little potions when enemies are all in his face. In a similar way, most abilities can only target enemies in specific opposing party positions. Both your team and the enemy battle in a row consisting of 4 spaces. The abilities equipped to Montgomery mostly target enemies in positions 2 through 4, and conversely, enemy abilities have ranges between spaces 1 through 4 of your party. The game provides a quick summary of individual preferred team positions and preferred enemy targets through these bullseye diagrams here on individual character sheets. These diagrams change depending on the skills you have equipped. And this man sells provisions, but they seem mostly useless right now, so you can just carry on. Welcome to the ruins of your ancestry. It's gross, and so are the people who live here. There's a mix of zombies and devil worshippers. By your second fight, you'll run into this enemy called the Cultist Acolyte. These busty Hot Topic mommies do what busty Hot Topic mommies do best. They show off their big giant titties and stress everyone out for no good reason. They're BPD art hoes. Because they induce so much stress, you'll want to get rid of these bitches as soon as possible. You find a torch and notice the light meter at the top of your screen. Right now it's providing bonuses to the party. That's nice, but you'll see the game's color palette changing as you adventure forth. The fading color coincides with your torch's fading fuel. How clever. These bonuses and penalties change with the light. Party members are more stressed in the dark, but they gain more loot. Dungeons are made up of 2 notable architectural states, rooms and corridors. These are indicated here on the map below. Rooms contain treasure, monsters, both, or neither. Most outings require you to clear a certain amount of these rooms, usually 90 to 100%. The corridors are much more varied and arduous. Walking down these halls drains the torch meter, stresses everyone out, they get hungry or generally just weird during these walks. For instance, Dismas is telling everyone to halt, so you do, but why, Dismas? What is it? Your party members will do this a lot, and for seemingly no reason. There's objects and traps and little interactables. Basically, any event that's not a fight happens in the hallways. But also, there's fights in the hallways, too. By the way, whatever hunger meter is happening behind the scenes does not fill when you feed party members yourself. Look at this. Dismas is low on health. You use food to heal him up. Great. He eats his fill. He's stuffed. He refuses another bite. The party takes 3 steps forward and suddenly everyone's famished. These people, in fact, they're so famished, they lose all the health you just recovered and then get super stressed out about it.
To fall for such a little thing. A bite of bread.
Great. Well, thank God for Dismas, thriving in the face of adversity once again. You'll come across loot and journal entries. Most often, you'll find unusual things like bookcases or piles of rubble that are super stressful and painful to dig through for some reason.
Without tools of iron, you must rely on flesh.
Come on, it cannot be that bad.
Mind that such missteps are the exception, and not the rule.
Don't listen to that asshole. Booby traps are absolutely the rule. There's also a scouting percentage stat that comes from somewhere that may provide a hint at what's to come, but most of the time you'll just ignore it. More often than not, you have no choice but to continue forward. And when you do have a choice, the options are cruel, discouraging hallway number 1 or cruel, discouraging hallway number 2. And because you didn't buy any torches before leaving, you'll be navigating in pitch black darkness by the end of your first outing. Another pile of rocks and bones blocks the last room. And because you didn't buy any shovels, the party gets really stressed out about it again.
Without tools of iron, you must rely on flesh.
However, Montgomery's focus will keep everyone together. Thanks, Doctor. The final fight of this outing will introduce you to 2 notable enemies, the Bone Cordia and the Bone Arbalist.
Inspiration.
Equipped with its signature weapons of stiletto and booze, the Cordia tells a greater story of its long-lost life. You see, the Cordia was a man of nobility and drink. The wide-mouthed goblet in his hand lended poorly to his overindulgence, and therefore the splashing and spilling of this drink pissed off all of his high-nobility friends. In death, the Cordia's Sisyphean curse is to forever spill his inky and spoiled beverage onto the vestments of anyone he encounters. And his partner, the Arbalist, kind of just bolts your fucking guts to the wall with a crossbow.
As life ebbs, terrible vistas of emptiness reveal themselves.
And the whole party begins to fall apart before the second round. Linessi's disorders manifest as ingestional pica, and she dares the team of skeletons to bathe in her blood, which is kind of cool, but a little crass. Reynold's insanity reaches its apex as he screams himself through a heart attack.
Teetering on the brink.
And the Arbalist will swiftly relieve us of his abuses.
This is no place for the weak or foolhardy.
And while you may think this is a bad thing, now that Reynold isn't here to berate everyone, the party will do just fine without him. At 5 guaranteed damage per round for 3 rounds, Montgomery's poisons will carry the remaining team members through to victory.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
Finally, Linessi, in her irrationality, will take herself from 90 to 100% health instead of tending to any of the other critically wounded party members. But everyone else pulls through. Montgomery rocks. And so you've completed your first quest.
Be wary.
You do want to get everyone out of here, but continue adventuring for a moment just to grab that chest. Linessi will cut herself on it and find nothing inside. Leave the instance by selecting the candle wax sealed letter in the top left corner. While this looks like a victory and reward screen, it's really more of a debrief. The gold is often meager, but the deeply instilled traumas will be plentiful. Dismas grows clumsy but crafty, and Linessi will find it difficult to see in the dark, which, like, yeah, it's dark, baby, it's hard to see. But not to worry, these afflictions can be altered later at the infirmary. And look at that, you've ticked your first box on your to-do list. You're so good at this. The Tavern and Abbey unlock here. These are used to recover party stress meters. You'll notice stress levels do not fade once adventurers return to safety. This is because abuse just never really rinses clean. Stress relief facilities cost variable amounts of gold, and worst of all, they briefly furlough the party member, meaning they won't be able to quest during their recovery. Your party is now heavy with poor morale, so you want to check the stagecoach to see if any promising reinforcements have arrived. You won't be able to afford anyone a rest for this week, but the stagecoach does bring Poussin, a second highwayman, same as Dismas, and Bachiller, the leper, who is undaunted by this oppressive atmosphere. Looking at his stats, you'll notice that this guy is kind of yoked. He can recover his own health, recover his own stress, and at 8 to 16 damage, he hits like a train. Look at that sword, it's broken in half. He doesn't even care. It doesn't slow him down at all.
This man understands that adversity and existence are one and the same.
Oh my god, he's perfect. You also notice here that those trinkets you collect are used as a resource to upgrade the structures around town. You can invest in the bar or church to reduce gold costs or increase the amount of stress recovered. The stagecoach can be expanded to import more recruits per week, and the nomad wagon can reduce costs of equipment. For now, you have chores to do. Stop by the graveyard to spit on Reynolds' grave, then begin your preparations for the third embarkment. You may notice here that because Montgomery uses the title Doctor quite loosely, your only real party healer is looking pretty burnt out emotionally. But not to worry. Put Dismas in the meditation room and take this group here out on your next adventure. That Necromancer's Apprentice is waiting, and there's a nice item for Lanesi at the end of this one. On week 3, it looks like stress is going to be the real killer, so shovels and torches seem like they might be more useful. You wonder if now's the time to try opium, but decide to carry on instead. You'll not yet learn to consider the consequences of doing things like peeking into shut torture devices. Therefore, Poussin will pick up a bit of claustrophobia this week. The phrasing "enclosed spaces" seems a little vague, but that's fine. Head into this room off to the side. Lanesi establishes herself as a mark after calling everyone demons. Aw, poor baby. The only real problem is that she will continue to do as she pleases, hitting skeletons with dazzling light instead of tending to other wounds.
Executed with impunity.
Open another death trap to no reward, and head through this next doorway. By the time the party consumes most of its light and rations, you'll notice that you've completed only half of the required rooms. Poussin reads a book so boring and stupid that it will nail him with a whopping 45 stress. Bachiller too asked us to stop and wait a moment. But why Bachiller? It's here you try out camping.
Gathered close in tenuous firelight.
Long expeditions will auto-equip you with a pile of logs used to start a campfire. You can use these logs in an empty room. This consumes some rations, but it's a unique opportunity to buff your party and ease some stress. As in battles, party members have unique abilities to use during these fireside chats. Each of these abilities consume an amount of time-based resource labeled Respite at the top of the screen. This is a sort of mana consumed when casting camp-exclusive abilities. You'll pay more attention to these before going out next time. Have Montgomery encourage Lanesi and have Bachiller do the same for Poussin before having him take some time to self-reflect. So true, Poussin. The campfire will also refresh your light source, which is nice.
The match is struck.
Then, finish week 3 with little drama. When you return, this guy says the hamlet has been swarmed with gross mosquitoes. This might be the DLC's call to adventure. Now, with few adventurers prepared mentally for the coming endeavor, you'll want to again check for any promising recruits.
The bellows blast once again.
The stagecoach brings with it Comine, the arbalist, Mirage, the abomination, who, has a love interest. Wait, why is that bad? Oh no, poor baby. Alright, step number 3 to beating Bloodmoon mode. Don't fall in love with prostitutes. It's like falling in love with your therapist. The feelings are understandable, but once those thoughts become fantasies and those fantasies become actions, it's just not healthy for anyone. And more importantly, it's just not pretty. They're not interested in you as an individual. It's just their job to pretend to be. He also has a thing called Sichiomania, which means he eats a lot. Here's a good time to get into this. Darkest Dungeon shows how diagnosing can be like detrimental to the individual and their psyche as opposed to constructive. Look at this. Ennui. Are you joking? Girl, get a hold of yourself. Here's a quick mini guide on how to fix like everyone's problems ever. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to you, dear viewer, because everyone knows you're thriving with perfect mental and physical health. Just look at you. You're absolutely glowing. But here's some steps that you can tell others who may be less fortunate. Number 1, stop doing drugs. It's not medicinal. It's not good for you. You don't need it to unwind. Just stop. Weed, booze, pills, all of them. Except, of course, anything that ends in I-N-E, ine, caffeine, nicotine, dextroamphetamine, coca. There's this bad bitch who works as a research scientist at an Ivy League university, and she's an absolute Miami Beach smoke show. She says that anything with an "ine" at the end of it is a hot girl drug that makes your whole life better. Step 2, start exercising. Lift weights. Hot girl behavior, also self-evident. Step 3, volunteer your time. Beauty is cultivated inside and out. A lovely heart transpires upon a lovely face. And most importantly, it just kind of makes you better than everyone else, like objectively.
So what's up today? Playing hooky?
It makes you like a good person. Lastly, 8 hours of sleep per night. Not a minute more, not a minute less. Too much sleep makes you sad. Too little sleep is bad for your skin. It's called beauty rest for a reason. Anyway, last on the stagecoach, there's Brereton, another crusader. Comine is somehow both spiritual and faithless. Upgrade the blacksmith's furnace and the guild's training regimen because more affordable things like weapons, armor, and skill upgrades are probably a good investment. You'll notice that the stagecoach can be upgraded to bring in units at starting levels higher than 1, but it requires you to level other structures first. This seems like it'll make things a lot easier, so you'll want to prioritize those going forward. So what do you do about these stressed out party members? Well, they can be left in town at places like the church or the bar to relieve stress at the cost of gold. Certain characters will only tolerate certain places, hence poor Mirage's affliction. Even worse, sometimes this jerk will take the only spot characters will go for stress relief. Who is this guy? Set Linessi to drink, Poussin to pray, and then forget to click this checkbox that confirms your decision. Upgrade your new star player, Baculaire, and notice that Montgomery uses she/her pronouns. Sorry, sis. Paid 900 gold to equip Bad Bitch Monty with the Blinding Gas ability. It has a 100% stun chance on enemy units in positions 3 and 4, the typical positions for archers and stress-inducing units. Monty is also fast, so she should be able to pop off these stuns at the start of each fight, allowing you a proper advantage. This ability and an upgraded Plague Grenade should swiftly handle any of those nasty back row targets. Upgrade Dismas's equipment and the abilities Wicked Slice, Pistol Shot, and Open Vein. Then prepare for your next expedition. At first you'll think to bring Baculaire, Dismas, Monty, and the newbie Comine for this week. Then you'll realize your only proper healer is busy getting drunk. You will also notice here that the Darkest Dungeon, the end goal of all of this, is open. You can just go in. Party members strongly suggest otherwise, so you think it's best not to insist, but this does change things, doesn't it? The path to victory is presumably not to clear that laundry list of hits, but to train warriors fit enough to navigate that old basement. Level 6, it seems. Anyway, it's back to the ruins for another short skirmish. This time you buy torches and shovels because team stress will become a burden. Torches and shovels are the Darkest Dungeon equivalent of an office pizza party. They don't make workers happy, but it calms them down long enough to make it worth the money. I keep checking those Iron Maidens for some reason. Use that new Blinding Gas ability to its fullest, and have Baculaire chop away.
You're eradicated.
You'll find an incredibly suspicious confession booth in one of the hallways. Investigating provides a bit of spooky lore, very cool.
Unsprung
Checking this
men
bookshelf
thirsting
provides a
for blood.
map, which isn't really useful.
Another one falls.
He's so cool. Set up camp to replenish your light. The next fight serves as an omen. Apparently no one on this team can hit anything.
The slow death. Unforeseen.
By the final fight of this excursion, it is pitch black, and Bachelier has grown hopeless under the weight of his own stress. So he too starts making his own decisions, some of which entail moving to the back of the line. This is possibly the worst thing he could do to you and the team, considering Comine and Monty literally can't fight when they're in positions 1 or 2 because of their ability target limitations. Look at Brereton in the back just trying to keep everyone alive with his little baby healing. So with the spill of another glass of wine, Bachelier loses his shit. And he has a heart attack.
At the very precipice.
This will send the group into a panic, which is understandable, considering Bachelier is carrying this team on his back. Shake it off, he says. It's just a heart attack. Don't be such a baby. Hearing this, Bachelier immediately has a second heart attack and dies. With Monty now in position 1, Fermin hanging on with a sliver of health, and Brereton in the back line unable to attack, the situation will once again not look so great. But not to worry. The enemy is wise enough to focus down Comine, but Monty pulls through when her resolve is tested. You'll reposition your team to try to fight this out. When Brereton gets hit with the wine, he too becomes abusive. He manages to judge the 2 warriors to death, leaving only the courtiers. Presumably, as long as the rest of the team doesn't go insane, you can get them out of here alive and even complete the expedition.
A hand's breadth from becoming. More blood soaks the soil.
Okay.
Feeding the
At this
evil
point,
berry.
Comine has no offensive moves that can be used in position 2, and you're not going to survive long enough for Montgomery's poisons to whittle the enemy away, so your only option is to retreat.
The sin is not in being outmatched, but in failing to recognize it.
It induces a ton of stress. Regardless, Comine and Monty live to fight another day. Hitting that X button again allows you to abandon the quest entirely, returning to the hamlet. With 2 rooms left in this excursion, there's no choice but to keep your head high and accept defeat for this round. It's not all bad. You keep some of the loot, and the 2 survivors acquire only minor afflictions. During your next appointment, your therapist will ask you about your job and starting school again. You'll tell him you're too busy to have fun, and he'll ask you what's the point of all the hard work if there's never any time for joy. But he doesn't really know what he's talking about, and in your head you call him a fat, which is odd because he definitely has a wife. Back at the hamlet, a prompt for a DLC character appears. This is Bohan, the shield breaker. She uses poisons and like a spear or something. It's not really clear, but move her portrait from the prompt to your party as a free addition to the team. After drinking all week, Linessi will find a new second way to be an alcoholic. Oh, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have sent her to the bar. But she'll be less irrational now, so that's good. Assign Comine to the cloister for some meditation. Check the stagecoach for your next batch of recruits. This week brings an egomaniac man-at-arms named Montrevers. Aw, and a guy with a puppy. Look at his ability art, it's so cute. This is Engaran, the Houndmaster. First thing you'll want to do is give his dog a name. His name is Muffin. And bring this new Vestial Droween in case, you know. Upgrade Linessi. She has a group healing ability for you to buy, which will definitely help. and also upgrade Poussin. For this week, bring the Montrevers guy to see what he's all about. Follow up with Linessi and, of course, Poussin and Garand and Muffin. The courtyard has a short level 1 mission. There's an invitation from the Baron to be had at the end of this, and he's on your kill list. You take some food, some torches, and then you're off to week 5's excursion. The narrator offers lore about how there was even more sex and drugs at your estate than previously thought.
Morality slipping ever deeper into the mud.
And you notice your torch meter is no longer a meter, but has become a big dripping bloodstain on the screen.
Well-remembered regret.
They call this a courtyard? Look at this place. It's an Alabama swamp. Look at the mosquitoes. Poussin does not hesitate to cut himself digging through this pile of alien bones. Ugh. The enemies here are somehow even more grotesque than the ones before. They appear to be mosquito, blood-brain sex monsters, and French. Ew. Oh my god, it's not Alabama, it's Louisiana. They're Cajun, gross. Linessi succumbs to something called a crimson curse, an affliction with unclear consequences at this time. Perhaps it has something to do with, quote, the blood, but no one knows. Giving it to Linessi provides a stat boost, and her character portrait gets a pretty sweet frame, so it's not so bad. Now, the mission states that you must activate 3 thronging hives, and this blood-leaking, trypophobia-inducing bee's nest thing looks as thronging as a hive as any. And using one of these torches on it will cause it to tear. On to the next one. Don't stop to smell the flowers, and don't disturb this cocoon, because it starts a fight, which gives Montrevers the curse too. You'll fight through another 3 or so rooms before the team once again begins to fall apart under the weight of life on the bayou.
There can be no hope in this hell. No hope at all.
So it's not looking good. And Garand and Muffin refuse healing twice, so they both die of heart attacks.
More dust. More ashes. More disappointment.
You only have 2 hives to destroy, and the 3 remaining adventurers are strong-willed and capable. So when Linessi has a heart attack and dies, what you want to do is hit that little X button in the top right corner of the screen to abandon the mission.
Where there is no peril in the task.
Collect a few treasures from the outing to New Orleans. Notice that something strange has happened to Montrevers, and now he's not allowed into the brothel. Notice that Poussin, too, has become an alcoholic, which, like, yeah, honestly, no judgments. This guy, who apparently beats the shit out of himself, will join you. Whatever. Come on, you'll fit right in. Look at you, what a ragtag bunch you are. The stagecoach has a rifleman, which is just a reskinned arbalist, you think? It also brings a jester and another highwayman, same as Dismas. And after evaluating the remaining recruits, it is once again not looking great. With the death of Linessi, you'll be at 5 out of 16 allowed deaths. Still only 1 completed quest goal, and Drowleen, the rookie, as your team's only dedicated healer. But this is Willoughby, the jester. Jesters are a novelty class based on buffing the party and changing positions of the party order. Most importantly, Jesters increase critical hit chance, dampen incoming stressors, and relieve already accumulated stress. Jesters are incredible, if not vital when properly understood. Finally, a guy with a sense of humor. If there's anything that can beat this dreadful computer game, it's a guy willing to throw a pie. You need Battle Ballad for the increased crit chance, Inspiring Tune for the stress relief, Solo, and Finale for offense. So what you want to do is start the Jester in position 4 of your party. This build affords him 1 attack per battle. That's Finale. But each of his other abilities, in addition to their effects, buff Finale's 1 single strike. Buff party members relieve stress, and as soon as you're ready to strike, use Solo, which throws the Jester to the front of the line, increasing his dodge chance, and marking himself to draw enemy attention. Then it's time for Finale. Finale almost always eliminates its target, and it will throw the Jester back to position 4, so he can assist the rest of the team through to the end of the fight. However, be mindful. With a minus 25 dodge, minus 3 speed, and 100% increase in stress, using Finale will leave the Jester incredibly vulnerable. With only freshies left, you may be doubting Drowleen's ability to keep a team alive at this point. It's here you will notice Savini, the Flagellant. He might be a healer, but it's unclear exactly what's going on, like in general. What's happening here? Or here? Uses per battle 2. Valid below 40% HP. Regime 1, heal 33% max HP. Self-heal 25% healing. Look, no one has time to become a statistician. We gotta patch that roof. Reclaim, heal 2 points per round for 2 rounds. Self, bleed 3. Okay. This one's a little more clear. Yeah. All right, buy that. Okay, and stress relief. All right, he's in. Flagellants are frontline support characters. An interesting change up to the RPG formula. He also has some offensive capabilities. Uses per battle 3. Valid below 40%. Bleed 100. For fuck's sake. Whatever, just buy that too. If you can only use it a couple of times per battle, it's probably good. On week 6, you'll want to set your team to Savini, Dismas, Picard, and Willoughby. The party should do just fine on a low-level mission with Savini's blood and Picard's bandages for healing. So it's back to the ruins for a short excursion out. Because money is tight this week, you don't buy any food, so the group goes hungry. You also won't bring any shovels, so everyone gets to be big whiny drama babies about digging again.
Without tools of iron, you must rely on flesh and indefatigable purpose.
Not to worry, Willoughby's here to play the lute, and this will calm everyone down. Check him out, he's so sick. At this point, Savini will become a danger to himself and others, which, yeah, everyone saw that coming. And as Savini's holding on for dear life, Willoughby insults him so hard it sends him into the Shadow Realm. There's just truly no coming back from something like that. Picard freaks, Dismas freaks, and you really could not have asked for a more dire situation. Huh? That's cool, man, but is now really the time? Oh. With 3 rooms left, and Willoughby at 170 stress, you want to go ahead and abandon this quest. We can't afford any more deaths this early in the adventure. Not to worry, this week's stagecoach will bring an occultist named Altered, who heals. How serendipitous. Upgrade the stagecoach to increase the party roster so you can bring the Flagellant along too. Okay, everyone's refreshed and ready to go back to the ruins. Mostly. In your excitement, you won't think about how this is a medium-length trip, meaning... Okay. So here's the plan. Take a quick step back and...
Survival is a tenuous proposition. This is no place for the weak. Another life wasted.
Okay. Rule 5. Cut out toxic people in your life. If anyone goes crazy, they're off the team. You only want to bring party members that thrive under pressure. Party members like Montgomery. There's no hiding it now. With little money, this many deaths, and still only 8 weeks in, your first run of Darkest Dungeon won't be looking great. Check out this guy, he looks tough. Imposter syndrome. Are you kidding me? Altered is more of an academic than an occultist, and as an academic, His successes in life pretty much rely entirely on fortune. At level 1, his only healing ability is a dice roll ranging from 0 to 13. Considering the best healing from Vestals at level 1 range between 4 and 5, Altered healing is quite good, and theoretically, the occultist can act as main healer for a party. However, as an academic, his work is also kind of lazy, and causes his patients to bleed out after applying his sutures. Here's a perfect example of the emotional roller coaster these guys can take you on. Firstly, characters don't die at 0 health. They roll a chance to die upon taking damage while at 0 health. This is called Death's Door. It is unclear what determines survivability while on Death's Door, but if the character suffers a heart attack or takes any amount of damage in this state, they're very likely to perish. So Altered has low health and calls out, "I need a healer," even though he is the healer. He's placed on Death's Door. He uses Weird Reconstruction on himself. It crits for 22, putting him back up to his maximum of 18. This also causes bleed at 1 damage per round for 3 rounds, unless otherwise mended. Montgomery. The Bone Cordia induces a heart attack, putting Altered back on Death's Door at 0 health, where he takes 1 point of damage from his own bleed and dies.
Survival is a tenuous proposition in this sprawling tomb.
Montgomery will not only be unfazed, but actually calmer than before Altered's death. But the line between Slay Queen and psychopathy is notably quite thin. With 2 party members down, you figure you may as well take the risk of this hallway to at least try and finish the quest. You'll survive, and it's back to the hamlet with another opportunity for improvement. With no dedicated healers, you begin to imagine what happens to your estate if it's never recovered. With Montgomery and the Bounty Hunter's success, an interesting quest appears in the ruins. Kill the Necromancer's Apprentice. And it's the first name on your hit list. While you're still not ready to take on your first boss fight, it is a good opportunity to check out the Cove for the first time. It's okay, you're new to this whole management thing. But this won't be the end of your first run. Oh my god, look at this whale. The end of your first run comes when, after another death, an abandoned quest in the Coves, and another 2 deaths in the Weald, the certainty of the end of this run comes with the passing of your last flagellant. Meaning you will now truly be out of healers. The Crusader left is the only option, and with his strongest ability being Battle Heal at 2 to 3 health per cast, and Inspiring Cry at a range of 1 to 1, your only real option will be to rely on these skills, the Arbalest Bandages and Monty's Bruise. You'll want to make your last stand at the Weald because the Cove really bums you out with all these dead whales. And you really don't think this party stands a chance against anything back in the ruins. But they'll pull through and survive the week, allowing the stagecoach to bring you a new proper healer, an occultist named Elares. With him, you can survive a second week, a successful mission with no upset. And with this vigor, you return to the ruins with, by God, the Flagellant, Dismas, Comine, and now Griffin, the marksman. At this point, you think about your possibilities of success and your potential path forward. It is possible to go long stretches of time without losing another character, and you only need 1 full, strong team leveled enough before going straight to the final area of the game. So what you want to do is, with little to no discretion, you go ahead and activate this demonic orb that completes this ritual to summon some incomprehensible horror, death, yada yada, squid god monster thing.
Behold the infinite malignity.
This is where the game introduces you to the consequences of your hubris. This surprise boss fight is called the Shambler, and the way it works is, it summons 2 disgusting pupae, kills By God, kills Dismas, and then it deletes your save file.
Tenuous proposition in this sprawling tomb.
Your therapist will call to tell you he's changing the structure of his practice, and therefore will no longer have you on as a patient under his care. Seriously, Darkest Dungeon on Bloodmoon difficulty doesn't just show you a game over screen, it deletes your record, the whole 10 hours of gameplay. It's now as if it never happened. You won't get a chance to say goodbye to Montgomery, the only real ass bitch to prove that anyone with enough moxie can be a doctor too. But you're not done yet.